Before you take the Commonwealth versus Hook case too far, you have to look at the Commonwealth versus Rushing case. And this is a really important point or to look at with all of these cases. Every one of the cases has to be examined on their particular facts. So in Commonwealth versus Rushing, we see the court come to a different conclusion than in Hook. Here, the defendant was accused of murder and assault in this house, where he detained these people, left them tied up, and departed, but had killed someone. And so the question is, has the defendant also committed the crime of kidnapping of the other people in the home, or was that merely incidental to the crime of murder? And so we have a more fundamental question, though, in this case, whether these victims who were tied up were held either transported, and they weren't, or were they held in a place of isolation for a substantial period of time? So substantial period of time, clearly, absolutely yes, no question about it. Were they held in a place of isolation? Well, you remember in the Hook case how the victim's apartment was one above a store that people were constantly in and out of. And so the court said that was not a place of isolation because this apartment was kind of a hub of constant activity. That no one came in during the period of the rape, but this place was not a place of isolation. And I think when you read the Hook case, you could well have quibbled with that opinion that that while someone was expected at some hour of the day, does holding the person against their will in that place not keep them from the assistance of other people? And that's the fundamental test. Has the defendant made rescue unlikely by where he has detained the victim of the incidental crime, or the crime that's being facilitated by detaining the victim? And in this case, the detention is in a home, and the only other person who was expected was another resident of the home who no one really knew when he was going to arrive. And so the court in this case goes in the opposite direction of the Hook case, that the court says this is a place of isolation, even though it is the victim's own home, that detaining the people here prevents others from coming to their aid, makes rescue unlikely. That this case is different because of the sheer volume of people who come into the house. So even though the Hook case, I think, might strike you as perhaps incorrectly decided, the key to understanding the Hook case, at least to interpreting it going forward, is to understand that every one of these cases is bound to their facts, and that sometimes the facts foreclose a lot of other outcomes. But in a case like Rushing, we see that you have to look specifically at the likelihood that other people will come into the home to determine whether a detention in someone's own home could amount to kidnapping, because the standard for determining whether a person's own home is a place of isolation is whether rescue is unlikely within that home. So it will be determined by, where's this place located? How many people come in and out of the house? Is it close to, would people hear unusual commotion and come to the person's aid? Those are the kind of questions that you ask in determining whether a detention inside of the victim's own residence can in fact amount to kidnapping, because it is a substantial length of detention in a manner that makes rescue unlikely. And that question, whether rescue is unlikely, determines whether this is a place of isolation within the meaning of the Pennsylvania kidnapping statute.